Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to DevChatter episode 90. It's pretty crazy. We're almost to our 100th stream here on the channel. So I hope all of you are excited about that as I am. That is a lot of streams. Anyway, for anyone who is new and doesn't know who I am, my name is Brendan. It's written like right here. And this channel here is DevChatter. And we like to write code together and generally have fun with software development. So if that's something that is interesting to you at all, welcome. Feel free to code along, just watch. You can chat in the channel, you can interact if you like, you can ask questions, you can contribute through our GitHub, which, by the way, if I have not mentioned before, all the code that we do here on the stream is out on GitHub, so you can find everything we do here and take a look at that code. In addition to that, anybody that wants to chat with me or the rest of the DevChatter community outside of these streams that we do here, which the streams, of course, are how we bring everybody together for some interaction at the same time, but if you want to chat with us outside the stream, the best place to do that is over on our Discord, so you can take a look there as well. Other things to mention. Upcoming events that I want to make sure that all of you know about. If you want to know our general schedule, the best way to do that is to head over to our GitHub and go to our stream info page. That's the one I'm on right here. And that will usually have, if we've scheduled a specific event for the day, it will tell you what that event is. So there's no specific event for today, which means that we're just going to be doing some coding together. We're going to do some live coding on one of our existing projects, most likely. And that's what you can expect. This Saturday is one of our special events, though. It is going to be the first in a series of events that we're doing called our Solid Saturdays. So on Saturday, we are going to do the first of our Solid Saturday streams, and what those are going to be is each one is an episode where we will focus on one of the solid principles of object-oriented design. This Saturday, the 18th, we will be learning about the single responsibility principle, which I like as a starting point because it is probably the easiest for people to understand of all of the solid principles. So it's a good starting point for getting that foundation of what we're actually going to be building. Welcome, everybody. I see people saying hi in chat. I will get started coding here, so we're not going to spend a whole bunch of time just with our intro at the beginning. Got to get through a couple of things, though. I have a couple of new things on the stream. For anybody that is returning and hasn't been here in a while, we have a crazy new hype command that does absolute absurdity. So if you're ever excited about something going on the stream, feel free to completely cover it with hype emotes. And if you want to use those hype emotes in chat as well, the way to do that is to subscribe to the channel. And then you'll get access to that emote in the chat. Other things to mention, I want to apologize to everybody who is a regular here. I am once again drinking Coca-Cola for the stream. One nice thing, I do approve of caffeine for software development, as it helps you get a little bit of focus. And for anybody who is a regular here, I must apologize because...
And is it true that you lost your Pepsi endorsement?
I hadn't heard that.
Apparently I lost my Pepsi sponsorship, and I was not aware of that. So, either way, I guess I'm drinking Coke now. I'm just kidding, I never had a Pepsi sponsorship. Okay, so the main project that we do here on the stream is our chatbot. We like it a lot, we've been doing it for a while. And we've made a lot of interesting changes to it. So, one of the things I want to talk about that the bot is doing, if you watch in the chat there, now I probably should have put in a special message that was going to trigger soon enough. We have what are called interval messages. So let's take a look at those real quick. Interval message. So our interval messages are just data that we store in the table. We store in a table in our SQL database. And all they do Oh, yes! Ha! Man, that's like... Whoa, I couldn't have planned that better. That was perfect. It just said over there, enjoying the stream. Click follow to make sure you don't miss the future streams. So that's one of our interval messages. That's coming out of the database. And I am going to show you guys where that came from. So for anybody that was not here when we set this up, if we drill down into this, this is our database, this is our table, at least locally running on my machine. And we go to interval messages, we view the data on here, and you'll see that there is enjoying the stream, click to follow to make sure you don't miss the stream. That is on a 7-minute delay. So that means 7 minutes after I started the bot, that message came up. Well, 7 minutes after I started counting. Oh, and that's perfect, because I can actually see the original message that the bot put in there is at 12:02 my time, and then 12:09 is when it did the next one. So that actually works perfectly, so that means it went at the 7-minute mark. So that's pretty good. That also means that the next one is going to happen 4 minutes later on 11 minutes into the stream. And it's going to keep doing these. Now, here is the weird part. Every time I start up the bot, it's always going to be 23 minutes until this one happens. It's going to be 19 minutes until that one happens. And I kind of know that. But what I want to do is this. I want to change how these work. So we are going to change our data structure, we're going to change what we store in the database, and we're going to change how these trigger. Here's the thought. And feel free to give me your thoughts, opinions, ideas in chat as well, because again, for anyone who is regular here, you also know that, well, I may be the guy that's streaming this. DevChatter's not just me, we are a community of people that are working together on this. So here's my thinking. When we send one of those messages out to chat, I want to record that we sent it. And the reason I say this is because when I start a stream that we're working on the bot, I'm going to restart this bot like 20, 30 times. So it's possible that I never get to half of these messages, that it will never send them out, because I've restarted the bot because we're like, oh, I need to recompile and try new things. So that resets the timer each time. So I want these numbers to be, you know, a delay based on the previous time it sent them. Now, the intervals that I've given them, you'll notice I picked all prime numbers. So 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23. I picked prime numbers because I want to make sure that as few times as possible these things are overlapping. So there's some kind of interval. Now, they are going to overlap sometimes because they're going to have multiples that they share with the other ones. And it'll happen, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I also want to fix that. So the next thing we're going to do, so there's a couple of features here. So the first one is I want to record when we sent the last one, so I can figure out the interval for the next one, even if we restarted. But what I want to say is, if I send out one message, I want to not send out the next message. So let's take a look at how this code works, and I'll discuss what my thinking is for how we can make the rest of it. Alright guys, I am confused why it's still giving me red lines on all that stuff. I'm going to do a rebuild, and if it doesn't clean it up, I'm actually going to restart Visual Studio, because I don't want you guys having to stare at red text even though it actually builds. So, yeah, okay, I'm going to restart it. We're going to just restart Visual Studio. And if you ever run into a problem in Visual Studio where windowing is messed up and it's like, you know the code's working, it compiles and things like that, just go ahead and restart. I think that was a problem caused by my core library initially didn't load when Visual Studio started. What ended up happening is it had an unloaded project, and so I had to tell it to reload that project. And I think the problem here is that I now need to restart so that it initially gets set up with that connection. So we'll see how that goes. Okay. There we go. No red text. Looks much better this time. There we go. Okay. So this is a data entity. So I mentioned already the couple of the thing that I want to add to this is, and I'm just going to put it on here for now. Date time. Do I want to do a date time offset? I'm not going to. And I'm going to say last triggered. And I'm going to set it to date time UTC now. Now the reason I'm giving it this value right off the bat is that actually is going to set an initial default value for this class. So when we create it, it's going to have it. And then when it gets stored in the database, the first one I create with this, every time I make a new one using this value, it's going to get that as the date last triggered. So I might rename that. We'll see. I like to just put in a name, and I like to rename as we go. I know that I don't get the best name the first time. Very few of us do. Okay. So we'll set that value, and then we will need to update these when we run them. Okay. So these are actually used at the beginning to set up, we pull this out of the database to set up our interval messages. So what I want to do is this. Inside of our bot main, we have just a simple method that says schedule automated messages. And it grabs all the automated messages. It creates an automated message for each one, and it stores it in here. So I want to change how this works. I want the automated message to actually store its value back into the repository. So I'm going to add the repository to the automated message object. Now keep in mind, this is just going to be a reference to the one that it is going to work with. So when I do this, I am going to add that as a parameter to the automated message. So automated message is now pulled up here, and it has repository as a parameter, and I'm going to go ahead and store that in a field. So now we have repository. Now I'm not big on it being repository long term, so I'm allowing myself access to the data here. I'm giving this the ability to understand that it's doing some data storage, but I might need to abstract that away so we don't see that this is what it's doing, but we'll see. So when I invoke, it's going to send out that chat message, and then what I want to do is I want to record that it was sent. Now, I already know that this is not a perfect system. So what I want to do is I want to grab a single one of these items. And how did I get them last time? List all the interval messages and don't pass one in? Okay. So, our repositories are fancy. We use what's called a specification. So for anybody who is new here, we use a specification pattern on our repositories. What that means is that our repository is set up to handle specific ways of obtaining the data. So if we look at our I specification right here, essentially what it is this is actually an interface that defines that we're going to have some kind of criteria. And this criteria is actually what's being used to filter the data. So because we have it set up this way, our data could get filtered whether it comes from a database, whether it comes from a cache, we don't really care. And it will still filter this data. You'll notice cache key is complaining that it doesn't get used. That's because we're not using that yet. We've looked at adding some caching before, but we haven't actually bitten the bullet and really put caching in here yet. The nice part about that approach is you can cache, instead of the specific query that you did, you can cache larger data sets and actually use this criteria on the cached value. So I could say something like, I have 10 results in this table usually. There's about 10 things in here. I can cache that whole set so we don't have to go to the database, but there are 100 ways to query for it. And so what I can do is I can store the whole set, and then I can, when I use my cache key, I can say, oh, actually just apply the criteria to the set instead of doing that. So it's actually really neat. And yeah, so I will show you what this looks like in a second. So from here, you'll notice that I have a handful of policies that exist. None of them are this interval policy. Hey Floodgris, we are working on our automated messaging system that does, on an interval, sends messages into the chat. So... Crimson Green! Thank you for the 6-month resub. Congratulations on hatching out of the egg there. That's pretty awesome. Make sure everybody spams some of those DevChatter hype emotes, as Crimson Green just became, I believe, the second of us to hatch out of the egg, right? Yeah. That might make him the first person that isn't me to hatch from his egg. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, our subscribers in this channel, you'll notice that we have these little eggs or these little dinosaurs. Some people are hatching out of their egg. And so Crimson actually managed to get all the way out of his egg now. So, awesome job, Crimson Green. That's what I like to see. Lots of hype emotes in there. Okay, so essentially, when we look at one of these policies, you'll notice that it's a very simple class. So this is just a 25-line class that we've got here. Pretty simple. And all it does... Oh, I'm sorry, the bot isn't actually running right now because I restarted Visual Studio. Whoop, build errors. I left... Yeah, hang on. Let me get the bot started again, so we'll have the bot going. That was annoying. Okay, bot's running now. There we go. And we're botted. There it is. Okay. When we are looking at one of these policies, the way that they work is this. We're able to encapsulate consistent ways of querying data. So a lot of times when you're using just an ORM, what you end up doing is you end up spreading around code that looks like this everywhere. And you end up, oh, every time I need to get the one by name, I just do an x dot, blah, 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 names dot contains, and then this one, right? And so that's a simple way of doing it. And part of the reason we use ORMs is that we can do these things. So you might say, my dataset dot where and say x dot display name equals display name. And you do this all over the place. Sorry, Crimson Green, I have to refresh in order for that to actually work. That's one of the annoyances with the way that connection works. I need to figure out how to get the overlay to automatically reconnect when that comes back up. So I need to put something on the page where it says, hey, if I'm not connected, go try and reconnect. Okay. It should work again now, though. Alright, so the idea being that maybe we figure out, you know what, we need to look up display name in a case-insensitive way. And so then all of a sudden you're going through your entire code base and making that change everywhere that you tried to get a chat user by display name. That sucks. Running through your code base like that is going to be a chore. We don't want to do that. So we essentially hide away the filtering logic inside of one of these policies. It's really kind of neat. So here's what we're going to do. I need a new policy because I don't have one for those interval messages. So I'm going to say interval message policy, and I'm going to say that it is a data item policy. And I'll show you what's in the data item policy real fast just so that you guys actually understand what that is. But let me move this to its own file first. Okay. There we go. So now that we're over here, I'm going to implement these, and we're going to take a look at the base class. So the couple of things that we get out of being a data item policy, which is just my base class I did for this, is we get an all method right here, which is just a grab everything, and because we have to actually give it an expression, we just do an expression that resolves to true, so x and then true. There might be another way of doing that, but that's the one I put in there. And then down here, we also have a by ID, so we automatically get a get this item by ID because we know every one of our data entities that we store in our database, because we just want to generally have this, we put on an ID value. So by default, we can just get things by ID and we don't have to worry about that. So that's not something we need to specifically put in each of our policies. Okay, so that's the base one. Here's this one. And I'm going to do that just so it's a little clearer. Did I not, hang on. Did that, okay. So the couple of things I want to note here. First off, this is not going to be a chat user, this is going to be an interval message. And then there's a key thing here that I want you all to notice. Our policy here actually has a protected constructor. So obviously it could be private or protected. Either one is fine here. I'm allowing someone to inherit from this and do further customization if they want, and that person might be me in the future if I need to. But the idea here is that I have built this so that you can't create one of these. And the reason I did that is because if I allow you to just be making these somewhere else, then someone's going to do this. And let me show you what they're going to do. They're going to come over here and they're going to say new interval message policy. And then what they're going to do is they're going to put in this, they're going to say like x.name equals, foo, right? And now they're going to have just littered this code out here. This is exactly what we were trying to avoid by even having this pattern. So what that means is I need to not allow this. So I don't. In my policy here, I made it protected. So this code does not work. So let's get rid of that. What we do instead is this. We say interval message policy dot. And so now, because we're doing this method, this approach of having these static methods on here that allow us to specify the parameters we want, we get all and by ID as options. So I can do interval message policy.all, and this would, grab all of them. Now this, right here, it's going to blow up because I said single, right? And that's going to be more than one. But I can write my own policy now. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say, you know what, public. I want everybody to be able to get this. I want to make it static. And then I want to call this by something. Right? And I can say by something and do whatever I want with it. I can say return new interval message policy, and then inside of this I can, you know, x equals x dot something, right? And I can do that. Now I don't actually need this piece right here. I am going to do this. I just wanted to show you how that one worked, because we're going to pull this by ID. By ID. Hey, an automated message went out. So, you all are waiting to see how am I not going to do the expression. Well, I'm going to do this now. Interval in minutes. I think if I'm going to do this, I actually need to take in the interval message object instead of the message and the minutes. So we're going to take in interval message. Oh, did this make a new one? That's funny. I screwed that up. That was my mistake. Sorry, everybody. I messed that up. There we go. Interval message. And then repository is going to be down here, because we're going to add this on here. Because that was like that. And I'm going to say equals that. Okay. Sorry about that. I just had to resort my constructors there. Getting a haircut myself. Aiden Pie, yeah, that cutting your own hair is often a dangerous idea. Okay. There we go. Does that not work? Repository, and then this will be repository, and this will be new system clock. There we go. Fixed. Okay. That's better now. So, now instead of storing message as a string, I want to store... ooh, is that coming from the parent? That might be. So we're going to store the interval message internally as a field. So private interval message, interval message. I am going to set this equal to a value based on the parameter. So we're going to say interval message there. And then this, I believe, needs to actually be there. So if I cut this, yep, oh, I can see the icon right there. That is actually coming from a higher thing. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say underscore interval message, and we're going to say message text. So, Brutal Swede, hey, welcome. So, essentially the idea here is I am going to say that our message is actually a calculated property, and it is going to come from the interval message object. So message itself is just pulling that off of that text. So anything that was calling that already is perfectly fine and needs no updates. I no longer need to set that value. And right here, we were just using the passed in interval message dot delay in minutes. And then that gets us set up right now. So we are not yet using all of the stuff that I was talking about. We're taking a step at a time. So right now we're adding in the idea of recording when we last sent this. So we're going to record that, but we're not going to change the behavior yet. So, because we can get away with this and make sure this piece works without doing the rest. And that's the important thing. So I'm going to say, ooh, can I? Actually, I might be able to do this. I just realized if I actually have the object, underscore repository dot update interval message dot. Oh, I removed it. Hang on. This property. Because I commented it out because we were getting a compiler error based on it, so now I've added it back in. So now I want to come over here and I want to say last triggered equals datetime.utc now. And I want to update that value. And in theory, that's really all I should have to do. So essentially, I've set the next runtime, I've done a for each, and I've done this part. And that should be good enough. Now, what I was talking about, so I discussed a concept with some of our other viewers. So some of our people that are subscribers in our Discord and things like that actually have had the chance to chat with me a little bit about what I want to do with this code. And what I was suggesting is that a way we could handle sending out these messages is to customize our iChat client. So that's actually the neat thing that we're going to do. Now I'm doing it this way because I want to show a fairly reusable open-close approach. So, and this ties in with what's not going to be this Saturday, but the following Saturday when we do our solid streams here. We're going to talk about the open-close principle, and I want to make sure that I've got some cool stuff in here that we can talk about. Hey, Smartasky. Okay, so we are doing last triggered, updated, and then now, because we've added that property, we have an issue with our database table. So I've added a property that's not on our table. So we need to deal with that. Also, why do I have an error right now? Bot main something? Oh, because I'm not passing this in. Right, change the parameters. There we go. Whoops. Message. Message chat clients repository. Not bad. That's clean enough. Those automated messages are fun. I added a bunch so that we could do this kind of stuff with it, so you guys can actually see some automated messages going in the chat. Alright, so here's what we need to do. We need to say add migration, and add migration is a command inside of Entity Framework. And I'm doing it, so it's right above my head right here, it's that text there. I'm doing this inside the Package Manager console, and the only reason I'm doing that is because it's a console window that I have access to without leaving Visual Studio, so I'm going to use it. Why not? It's there. And then once I type that, I want to do one other thing. And that is, I want to give the migration a name. So I'm going to call this one testing. And the reason I'm calling it testing is I fully intend to throw away this change. That is going to be step one. I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to throw it away. Now, the reason I call it testing is because I'm like, that's a reminder, make sure I throw this away. I don't want to keep it. So whenever I'm doing a migration in Entity Framework, I always do this because I want to see, hey, what did you make? What did you think the migration was? Because I'm not that trusting of automated code. Call me crazy, but I've had them do things that I was surprised by before. So I want to take a look and control what's going to be in this migration before I do it. Okay, the next property that I have to pass here, so as I said, I called it testing, and then the next thing here is project. Now the reason I have to do that, this is an extra parameter. So highlighted over there is the web project. If the web project had my migrations, no migrations folder, I wouldn't need to do this. But they're not there. They're over here in this project. So that's where the migrations are. So I have to tell Entity Framework that's where you find them. So dash project and then put in the project name. And let's run this and see what we get. SNB, yes, I am crazy. And Yellow Cat, welcome. Hey, Welcome back. You've seen some pretty funky stuff coming out of EF migrations. Sometimes I had to take what it generates and alter it. Yeah, exactly, Smartasky. Sometimes the migration does not get you exactly what you want. And that's why I recommend always doing one of those little checks first. Okay, now here's a problem that, so I hadn't been hitting build because I didn't want to pull the bot out, because when I hit build, the bot comes out of chat and stops running. And the problem is, because we're doing automated messages, I wanted it to keep posting there in chat for a while, so that's why I wasn't hitting the build command. But that's what happened. So here's what we're gonna do, just to make this work, is I'm gonna say new interval message, and we're gonna pass in underscore delay in minutes. So we changed the signature of this object. Hello there. Okay, now I can get rid of these parameters. And everything should be working again. And then that wants the repository, which is going to be a new mock repository object. So we changed the signature of the method a little bit, so now that I've fixed that, it should be fine. And let's do a quick rebuild. Okay, good. Back to the package manager console. You'll notice here in the console, it just says build failed, and that's fine. We'll just try it again, and we'll make a new testing one. An error occurred while accessing the iWeb host on program. And welcome, developers from C# Fritz's stream. Subscribers of the channel, please defend us. Spam those hype emotes. There is a raid upon us. Oh, dang it. And the bot's not running. RIP. I just stopped the bot. Figures. Alright, there we go. So welcome everybody. We are doing some more C# and .NET coding over here, so if that is something you're interested in, you are in the right place. I know a bunch of you have probably been here before. We are working on our chatbot, and thank you S&B. Good timing, by the way. So get hyped up everybody, because this is going to be a good one. So we are currently making some changes to our data storage using Entity Framework's migrations. I don't know what it built for us, but we're going to take a look at those. So I call them testing, and I mentioned everybody just moments ago, the reason why I call my new migration testing the first time is because I need to know to throw it out. That's my reminder. Don't commit the one that says testing, because I like to get a quick look at what Entity Framework's going to do first. Welcome, thanks for the follows everybody, I see a bunch in there. And yeah, Randactyl, our hype in the chat there got a lot more crazy than it was before. Silent TV 22, hello. Ancient Coder, welcome back. Welcome everybody. Good to see people. Looking forward to some more code. So what we are actually going to do here is we're just adding in this new column right here. And it should just be a date time, kind unspecified default value. That's probably fine. Although I think I'd prefer a different default value, so we'll probably fix that in a minute when we do that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. So clearly that migration is not the one we're going to keep. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go over here, and I am going to discard that change, and then discard that change. So we're just going to throw out that migration that we just did, because we don't need it. Welcome everybody, good to see everybody there. Zarnel, Ben Kenobi. Okay, so that's been thrown out. I'm going to rebuild so everything here knows, hey, those files are gone, everything's saved. And so since I just rebuilt, no more hype here on the window. Sorry about that, everybody. I will fix that in a moment. But then I want to jump back into our migration again. And this time, instead of saying testing, I'm going to say add column, and I'm going to say we're adding, actually I'm going to say add, what did we call it? Last triggered column. And actually I'm going to rename that before we do it. So I called it last triggered. I'm going to say last sent. Last sent. Last sent. There we go. Let's make sure everything rebuilds. Yeah, so Ancient Coder, I will give a brief review of how our data works, how our data access works. I actually just did this a little bit ago on the stream, but since we have a bunch of people that just showed up, I will gladly show how our repositories and our specifications actually work, because we actually have a really cool way of wrapping our data access here that I want to show people, because it is a very cool approach. It's one of my favorite ways of doing data access. So, once we get that, then we're going to say add migration, add, and I called it last triggered, but we're going to call it last sent column. And then do that. So, sorry, that's right behind my head. Let me scroll that up. There you go. Now you can see the command I'm using there. It's add migration, add last seen, and that's the project. So, hit enter. This should run, hopefully error-free. And yes, we are T-Rex coding here. Okay, so we now have that column added, and I mentioned that we want a different default value. I am not sure how to get that to get us the right default value, so I'm not going to worry about it just yet. We're always passing it in on our side anyway, so we'll fix that one later. So here's what we're going to do. Now that we've got that going, I am going to update the database. Oh, whoops. Why, oh why, tools, do you auto-generate stuff that doesn't compile? I would love it if it would tell me why it does that. No idea. Yeah, let's generate stuff that doesn't compile. Okay, so our database, in theory, is up to date. We'll see how that goes. And thanks for the follow there. You're working on a... So, I can actually give a general opinion. So there's a question in chat about choosing different languages and things like that. And I will say that my general stance on anything relating to choosing languages is that there are a lot of great languages out there for solving all kinds of different challenges that people are going to come across in their careers. And I like C#. I know a lot of other people that like C#. It's a good language. There are plenty of other languages as well that work very well. And when you think like, oh, I'm going to use XYZ popular language or unpopular language or anything like that, I do find that there are a lot of benefits to working with a more popular language. And one of those benefits is that there is a community around it. So, for example, anybody who is a C# developer can show up here to the DevChatter stream and get a lot of other, get access to a lot of other people that are experts in C#. So, since we have so many C# devs here, there's a lot of information about that. C#'s not the only type of dev we've got here, though. We have plenty of other people that are doing other things as well. I know for a fact that we have some Java developers here, some JavaScript developers here, Python developers. We have plenty of different people. And that's actually why we have, for example, our Discord is set up so that we can have developers of all different backgrounds chatting about the stuff that interests them. So lots of cool stuff. Okay, so our project runs, which means that we now have in our database those values. So let's take a look. So I'm going to expand out our database. We're going to take a look inside of the table for our interval messages. So this is the table we just modified. Oh, dang it, I did make that table. I made that column. Whoops, I must have done that in advance. I'll fix that later. So we have last sent and last triggered, although that one wasn't supposed to get created, but that's what I get for running a thing and then renaming. So we want to essentially just say, when the code runs, update that value. Now, I don't have a fantastic way of making that code run right now, but it will eventually. It is, oh, hey, cool, we got Python. We have, what, Python, Golang, JavaScript, PHP. So, yeah, the point is that a lot of the stuff we talk about, a lot of the things we do, have nothing to do with the language that we're working in. So, a lot of the stuff I build, even though I'm building it in C#, could be done in any language. Okay, so in order to test this, I can just go write some tests. I could write some integration tests. But I'm on a stream here and I'm going to spend time talking with you guys anyway, so I'm not in a rush. I am waiting for a chat message to appear in there from the bot on an interval. So in, say, like 5 minutes, I'm expecting it to say something over there. So while we do that, someone had requested that I talk about the data model and the storage that we use here in this project. So let's go take a look. So the way that we access our data in this project is through our repository. Now, I know a lot of people that love repositories, a lot of people that hate repositories, and there's a lot of stances on that. I like the style that we use, and I will explain how ours works and how it differs from many. Let me read one thing in chat real quick. Alright, so someone, so you hire developers and you think it's a mistake to do language-based hiring. I agree completely. I also used to do a lot of hiring of developers. I have always just taken the assumption that anyone I hire can learn the language that we use. So if I'm hiring you to do a C# job and you know... Hey, welcome. Thank you for the host there, Kevin. So my assumption is you know Java? Okay, cool, you can do C#. You know JavaScript? Okay, cool, you can do C#. You know Python? Okay, cool, you can do C#. And the idea is, if I'm hiring for a Java job, just reverse all those. And we say like, oh yeah, JavaScript? Yeah, you can do Java. C#? Yeah, you can do Java. Python? Yeah, you can do Java. And the idea being like, there's so much similarity between these, unless I'm asking you to switch paradigms, I don't expect you to have any trouble picking it up. Now, even if I am asking you to switch paradigms, I still think you can pick it up. It just might take a little longer. So I care more about how you approach problems, how you work with the client, how you manage your time, deal with difficult issues, how you structure projects. Those sorts of things matter so much more when I'm hiring developers. Okay, so Greendolf, the point is there are some languages that are different. So, and those are the exceptions. So, that's my point, is like, and then okay, Rust might be one that we have to, that they just take longer to figure out, maybe. So there's a lot of those kinds of things. Okay, so this is our repository right up here. And it takes in these specifications. You all are probably noticing these. So our repository is not extensive. We don't do a lot of data access in here. Hey, I heart coding. And these specifications are the interesting piece. You'll notice I'm not taking in IDs. I don't have a get by ID method or anything like that. Yellow cat, not well. Not well. And you will not get me to utter my German here on the channel ever. My German ability is terrible. Though I have spent some time working in Germany, so I can get by, but only native Germans can actually understand what I'm saying because my accents are terrible and I don't speak it very well. Official Badger, hey, welcome. We are working on some code together, and I am waiting for the chatbot to catch up. Oh, no, Smart ASCII. I mean, I can speak German, I'm just not going to do it on stream. Oh, yeah, see? There you go. Yeah, I know we've got people that live in Germany here, which is, again, why I'm not going to speak German. Because that would just be embarrassing. Okay, so our method that wants to get a single item right here takes in a specification, which is kind of weird. So, let me explain how that works. The specification actually is this simple piece. Are we using this anywhere? No? Is that getting used anywhere? No? not using that right now, so I'm just going to nuke that. Okay, so specification takes in this expression of function of t of bool called criteria. I wondered if I've scared anyone away with this code yet. It's really not as strange as it sounds. So the weird part is this. Due to how... so the expression part essentially says, hey, I want this to be an expression. Okay? That's not really changing the functionality of what this is. Really, this is just a wrapper that helps me to use this with some other frameworks like Entity Framework. This piece is less important. Realistically, if it looked like this, it would work in the 99% case, and this is much easier for you to understand. So, quick explanation for anyone who doesn't know what this is in C#. A func is basically like saying, this is a method that returns a parameter, and that parameter is of type t. So, in this case, it takes in an input value that... Actually, I should be careful with my use of the word t. This function takes in a t and returns a boolean. So I'm basically saying, hey, give me a function that evaluates to true or false. And that's all I want. So, takes a t, returns a bool. Nice and easy. Ignore the fact that it says expression around that. That's a fancy wrapper to like, kind of control how it's written in a way and how it's used. So ignore that part. All we're looking for is, this is a method that takes in a t and returns a bool. The t in this case is what we're trying to get out of our repository. So this is our data item. So let's take a look at an example of one of these. What's a good one? Chat user policy is a good one. Okay. So if I take a look, I have these policy classes, and the policy classes really are inheriting, they are implementing that specification interface. But what they do is this. They have a protected constructor that takes in the expression that we're going to use as that criteria. And what they do is they sort of wrap this functionality so that we can store consistent ways of accessing our data. So normally, in a repository, you'll see someone has this. They have get by ID, and then, and that's a method. And then they'll have, get by name, and they'll have, get by company, or whatever, right? Company? There we go. And they'll have all these methods on the repository. And then the problem is, they'll say, oh, well, company applies to these ones, so I need a special repository just for accessing this data, and then I need another repository for accessing that one. And eventually they end up with a repository for every single table in their database. So they have then written custom logic for pulling that out for every single one. And that is silly. Let me show you all of our repositories. So I'm going to go to our repository. This, done. I have one repository, one, single. This is it. This is my only repository. I have my EF generic repository. It takes in a specification and applies it. Here's the fancy thing that it does. So I mentioned to you that I'm using those specifications. I literally just say, grab that set, and then singular default, and pass in spec.criteria. So that spec.criteria is my specification, and I can decide how I want to specify which one I want. Oh, nice, Greendorf, you have a cup of tea. I love it. That's one of my favorite mugs. I've seen those. Expected tea return. I use get by name and get by ID always. Yeah, so the official badger, this is the way to not do that, so you don't have to have all those values. So we still have a get by ID, but it's actually somewhere else. So right here, notice what I've got. I have by display name, right? I say chat user by display name, and I can go and let's take a look at how we use this. Is that? No, that was a bad one to check. Hang on. Is this one? Okay. So here's the idea. Chat user by display name. So let me pull this out so you can see it better. Date specific chat. Oh, hang on. That is a hilarious use of that. I forgot I did that. That is funny. That actually showing the real power of it, but give me a second. There we go. Okay. So here's what we've got. What I do here is I say, I have this repository object, I say get me a single item of it, and then what I said was, I said chat user policy by display name, and then the display name. So this I could write as criteria, right? So I'm saying that my criteria for finding my user is I want a chat user policy of by display name using that display name. So this effectively is your by name that you would otherwise have, or your by ID. So your get by whatever, except that what I end up doing is I have encapsulated that logic right here. So this is actually just the filter. So I don't have to have the filtering inside the same class as my repository. What's cool about that is this. Now, this has no dependence on the database. This does not care about a database. This does not know about any framework. This does not know about a database table. This does not know how I'm persisting my data, where I'm persisting it, how long it's being persisted. This knows nothing about this. It just knows how do I find the right one out of the data. So that's what makes this so cool. So let me show you what I came across when looking for an example. So right here, this is criteria. Okay? Notice this is not the repository. I said chat user policy by display name. This is the criteria right here. Okay? That is my chat user policy. When I look at this method, whoops, the method, not the interface, what you'll notice is my filter can then get applied right here. So this is where the repository is. I decided how we were filtering somewhere else. Does that make sense? So I can decide the filtering at whatever point it makes sense, whether I have access to the data at that moment or not. So the data access is actually taking place in a different spot, and I could pass in the important criteria for it. So that is the cool thing that you actually get here. So I could apply this filtering logic to our cached object, as well as to the one coming out of the database. I could just have an in-memory collection of them, and I can apply this filter to it. So all of that works, and it's really, really cool. I heart coding. I sometimes comment my code, but you're right. I often don't comment things. I like good naming and good methods, and I think they often are more effective than the comments. However, there is still a time for comments, and feel free to yell at me if you want me to comment something that I should be commenting. One of the examples for that is, especially public methods should probably have some kind of a comment letting people know what it is that it does. Okay, so let me go ahead and undo some of these little changes that I made. I just wanted to show that, so you could all see how our data access works. Our data model as well, oh, I should... And welcome, Code Rushed and friends. So anybody that stuck around in the chat after Mark finished his coding today, welcome. Good to see you. Hopefully you're here for some more coding. Sadly, some days we do JavaScript here, but today we're doing C#. So do feel free to stick around, though. I know that Mark usually does JavaScript. And I do want to mention to people that there are a lot of awesome streamers out there. So do feel free to check out some of the other streamers that do programming stuff. So Code Rushed, C# Fritz, awesome developers that have good stuff. Okay, so this is the basic data item policy the other ones were inheriting from. Here's the thing I want to point out. So someone mentioned, and it was... Thanks for the hype, guys. The official Badger, you had said, and that's funny, the one that triggered the hype, that you use the by name, by ID, etc. when you're writing code. And so the interesting thing about that when you're doing your repository is that I actually have my by ID is right here. So that's my by ID. And because I put it on my base class, my data item policy, every other policy that does this gets a by ID out of the gate. So right away, I've already got by ID. I don't need to write that for each one because I know that they all have it. And any other consistencies, I can do this same approach of having a base class that gets you those ones. So if there is a type they both share, I can do that. And then we're able to have some nice code out of that. So it's very useful. Let's see, you don't use GitHub, yeah, so some people actually do get free stuff from GitHub for that one. The code I'm working on our stream here, which, by the way, everything we do here is actually out on GitHub. Ours is all open source, so you can actually check all that out. Pyro, what would you say? Shouldn't you return the lambda on the first hit? Not sure if it already does. So Pyro is suggesting that I could save these and not do the same one every time. And that is absolutely correct. I could avoid creating a new policy every time for some of these. For this one, I'd want to create a new one every time because there's an ID attached to it. But on this one, I could just create it once and not worry about it. You are correct, Pyro. That is an optimization I could put in there. But that's how our data access works, and it's kind of neat. I have been thinking about for a while jumping over onto C# Fritz's project and ripping out his repositories and be like, here, use these instead, and tossing him a pull request on that. There are a lot of hotkeys that I use and find useful, Yellow Cat. The weird part is I do use ReSharper, so plenty of mine actually do come from that. So one of the ones that is very common that I am a big fan of, though, let me show you it by doing this. So look, my usings are out of order. I can hold Control and hit RG, so think really good. This is a really good keyboard shortcut. And it will format those on the top for you. So it'll remove and sort usings. So Control RG, just hit that when you're in Files, and it'll do some nice cleanup for you. Okay, so let's check the results of what we were doing. So I went to go talk to you guys about all that stuff because I wanted my code to run while we were talking. And look at those. We have new numbers up here. So it looks like everyone has been sent except for the last one, so the 23-minute one. So I managed to talk and explain code for long enough for a whole bunch of interval messages to trigger. So that's cool. So that means that we're actually able to store that data as these run. So that's perfect. And yes, the official Badger, all of my other policies are extending data item policy as long as it's a policy for data items. The cool thing about that is, don't think, the I specifications that we have here, don't think of these policies as just for, oh, and welcome, anybody that was over in Nibbles.io stream. That's weird that I just got an auto host from Nibbles.io. Oh, someone else must have ended, that's probably what it was. Well into the stream like that. Anyway, so the idea is, don't think of this as just a way of filtering data out of a repository. The neat thing about this is just reusable, so these are just reusable filters. So the specifications, these policies, it's a way of filtering data. That data could come from a repository, it could be an in-memory collection, and so the idea is that whenever I need one of these, I can just make one. So if it's not a data item, so I mentioned that data item policy is for data items. These are like my data entities. These are what I store in my database in the table. So that's the idea. These are here. They come with an ID. This is literally all they are. But if you're not one of those, you don't use it. So, and it works pretty well. So welcome anybody that was lurking over in Nibbles.io's stream. We're doing C# here today, so looking at some cool stuff, discussing how we store data, and looking at some changes to how we send out automated messages in the chat. Yeah, so if I need a private repo, I am actually a Bitbucket person, but GitLab also is another option for that. If people are, not willing to pay the price to use GitHub for private repos, there are other options that can help you out with that. Pyro, you meant the quid search would return on the first hit since they should be unique. I'm going to have to reread your question in a second here, Pyro. The official badger. I am running Visual Studio. Weird question. And there's our last message. Welcome. Thanks for following, by the way. So our last message just popped up in the chat. So that's perfect. Our data should be fixed. And nice job, Badger. Way to spam the hype thing. So we've got hype in here again. That was fun. And there we go. You guys can't see it because it's been hyped over right now, but all of those have a sent value, so that tells me that this is working, and we've sent multiple times, I believe. Yeah, hype when people follow, exactly. In your buy... yeah, okay, I'll take a look. So, data item policy. So, we're over here. By ID, we're saying data item policy x.id equals ID. You are already returning the first hit, or is it looking all over the data still? Oh, okay, so Pyro. The way it works is, so it's going to grab those items out of the database using that, and it will bail out. It will be efficient about it, Pyro, because Entity Framework actually takes care of that for me. And if I am using another system for it, it might have to check the whole set because I'm doing a single. If I did a first, it would grab the first one and bail out. Now keep in mind that I could write the piece that did that, and the policy for it works the same, whether it bails out on the first or accesses the single. That's actually a check of how you're using it, not this one. And yeah, not saying, definitely kills the bitrate when you do that. No, Zarnal, hype was not a mistake. Hype is never a mistake. Yes, Greendolf, I am intending to make the hype command that triggers all that probably cost coins. So people can only spam it if they've been here a while. Seb the Third, hey, welcome back. Hype, hype, hype. And Bokyo, welcome. Yeah, so the, yes, thanks for the hype, guys. So I think the reason why it slows down, it doesn't slow down on my rendering or my sending, but my guess is that anybody that is caching the video, because so much is changing on the screen, that causes some slowdown when we hype. So sorry about that if that slows down for you guys. I have an easy off button though. Yep, most link queries on stuff translates to efficient SQL queries generally. That's correct, Zarnal. For the basics, it's pretty good. If you get into more complex queries, Entity Framework falls down a little bit because it can't know the model well enough. Like, it does not think like us. If Entity Framework could come up with those better than we could every single time, we wouldn't have as much of a job as we do today. Yep. Yeah, so the official badger, I will probably reduce the number of hypes on the screen. When they were not as wild and crazy, we needed more of them to have the same kind of hype level. So we don't need as many anymore. Okay, so that's how the data item policy works. A couple of things I want to mention while there are people here. Don't forget to join our Discord if you're interested in chatting with us after the stream. Additionally, you can find all our code out on GitHub, so Discord, GitHub, links are in the chat. And if you want to catch any of our old videos here on DevChatter, you can actually find a bunch of those here on Twitch in the videos section, and our older content is archived over on YouTube. The other thing I want to mention, we do a special stream here that is beginner level, so we do a series of streams. So we'll be doing our 7th episode coming up, I think it's the 20th, so that should be Monday. And it's our Learn to Code in C# streams. They're for beginners. And I posted the link in chat, and it just takes you to here, and that will talk to you about learning to code in C#. So it's follow-along exercises, any skill level invited. If you know a lot of stuff already, then you can help out with beginners, or if you just want to practice, you can follow along, it's up to you. And you can get reminders just for this. So you can also follow the channel to get reminders whenever we go live. Not Zane, I turned it off. Yeah. So the hype doesn't work right now. And then additionally, I want to mention to people that our Solid Saturdays is actually another series we're starting up. So this Saturday, we're going to be discussing the single responsibility principle, which is the first of the solid principles of object-oriented design. So if you use an object-oriented programming language, you should know these. You might already know them, and you may not know them by name, but they're good to know and useful for communicating with other developers. So if you want to learn more about single responsibility, how to use it, when to use it, and how it works, take a look at the series that we've got here and that link that I just posted in chat. Okay, so let's jump back to coding. Now I was just temporarily turning it off, Badger, so that I could do that while I was talking. Okay, so and congratulations, Badger, you won rock, paper, scissors. And I have to again apologize to my regulars. I am drinking Coke. I normally drink Pepsi on the stream. Draco, yes, you can access APIs from WPF. You could access it from a console application. What is the best software for a C# desktop app UI? I would currently go with WPF. That's my stance. Although you can actually you can do a lot of things with. It's funny. Surprisingly, WinForms is not as bad as we all give it credit. You could at least turn the camera on so we cannot see the Coke. Oh, actually, I got this set up special for this stream, guys, because I was stuck drinking Coke. Hang on one second.
And is it true that you lost your Pepsi endorsement?
I hadn't heard that.
And I'm back. So, I was kidding. I've actually never had a Pepsi sponsorship here on the channel. Although Pepsi executive, if there are any Pepsi executives here, feel free to give me a call. We can chat about Pepsi sponsorship. I'm willing to wear a Pepsi logo on my shoulder if you guys just deliver Pepsi to my door all the time. We could talk. All right. So we got this adjusted, so we have last sent. So here's what we've started doing. In our automated message, when they send an automated message into our chat, we are now recording the time that we sent it. And this actually... I actually like Coke, I like Pepsi, I like Dr. Pepper. They're all good. I love water too. Speaking of which, I have a bottle of water right here, man. I just realized Aquafina is the Pepsi one, isn't it? Is this the Pepsi one? Is Aquafina the Pepsi one? I thought it was. Maybe it's not. Maybe they're their own? I don't remember. Anyway. Today's stream brought to you by H2O. Okay, so readjusted our automated messages so that that they record when they went out. Not bad, pretty easy. We didn't do anything fancy for this. It's just basic, you know, call the thing, update, you know, done. Cool. Nice, Seb the Third. Okay, so we send out these automated messages. I now want to change how it works. So, I'm going to make it so that these messages, so this is going to mess up the system real quick. What I'm going to do here is, well, okay, so there's 2 steps I need to do to complete what we're planning on doing with these automated messages. Step 1, well, actually, these are in any order. The first of the steps, of which we might do them in this order, is this interval right here that we set. We're doing it right now based on the delay in minutes from this. But what I want to do is get our time span based on either the delay in minutes from right now or, well, actually, our next runtime. Ah, here it is. Interval time span. Next runtime. Sorry, our next runtime needs to either be based on now or the past, and I'm thinking the past. So the idea is I need to change this. Instead of starting based on now, I need to start it based on when it happened before. And actually, that makes me realize that I messed up this. Whoop, fixed. Don't use date time there, Brendan, use our clock. Okay, cool. Welcome back, Crimson Green, and I see some other stuff in chat that I want to catch up on real quickly. Will there be a priority rating for the commands? Also, depending on the priority, will messages be dropped? Whoa! Cheers, everybody! Thank you for the bits, Crimson Green, much appreciated. Sadly, I don't have any talking when you do that. So, the question that Pyro just asked is, depending on the priority, will the messages be dropped? Here's the plan. So eventually I want commands to kind of queue up and things like that, but we aren't doing that yet. But what I want to do now is I want to avoid more than one automated message being sent out in the same minute. So the idea is I want to change it so that when these send, if something else was already sent, don't send the next one. Just queue it up, delay it, right? So let's go to our chat client, of which we currently only have one. And this, for anyone who read the title of this stream, I talked about using the Decorator Pattern, and here's where we're actually going to use that. So, I came up with a funny idea for how we could use the Decorator Pattern to solve this problem. So, here's what we will do. Whoops. iChat client, we're going to open this up. We're going to go over here, Systems, Chat. I am going to make a new class. I am going to call it Buffered Chat Client. Buffered Chat Client. So this means I want to set up this chat client as a buffer. Now, what's neat about this is I can then apply my buffer to any other chat service I want to. So whether we're talking to the Twitch chat or whether we connect to Discord or YouTube or any other chat service, we can buffer this. Maybe we connect to a Slack server, it doesn't matter. We can actually get in the way and sort of control this. So that is the plan. Official Badger, I have no idea. Okay, so I'm going to add an iChat client. So it's going to implement that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a constructor. So I have a constructor and I implement an interface. I now want to take in a parameter, and this is the decorator pattern right here. Inside of this, I am going to take in my internal chat client. Now I'm ready to decorate. So the idea is this. Oh my god, I forgot how big that was. I need to clean up this interface, everybody. This is an interface segregation principle violation that I've got here that I'm noticing. That is one of the solid principles. At least I know I have some example code to show how to do interface segregation principle wrong, and it's out of my own code base. Keep in mind, everybody, that no matter how much effort you put in, we all write bad code every once in a while, and one of the best things you can do is both recognize that and be willing to go fix it at some point. So acknowledge the fact that you make mistakes, I make mistakes, we all make mistakes. I have too many things on my chat client, Greendolf. We have connect, disconnect, send message, send direct message, timeout, ban. I think these probably shouldn't be in here. I think these should be part of the chat system, not a chat message. So this is not the chat the chat client is too big. I think the chat client should be reserved to connect, disconnect, send, individual message, direct message, and then probably these, and then this should be something else. This should be the chat system. It should be another interface. So all three of those should be somewhere else. So that inherently is what I've realized is the problem there. And Zultralord trying to use git commands in chat there. So the idea here, Greendolf, is that interface should be separated into two things. Even if the class that implements it is the same one, I should separate that so that it's a little bit cleaner. Okay. Conversations I don't have anything to do with right now. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Connect and disconnect. I'm not doing anything about those. We're a buffered thing. We have nothing to do with this. So we are going to connect and disconnect are just going to be straight up calls to the internal chat client. We're not dealing with that. We're just going to call that instead. Timeout, same concept here. I'm not doing that. I am just going to, whoops, grab this, timeout, username, duration, reason. Again, just gonna do that, and then on ban, we're gonna do the exact same thing. We're just gonna say, whoops, we're just gonna say, big fat arrow, we're gonna say internal ban, username, duration. Oh, username, reason. Yeah, there's no duration on that one. Derp, bans are permanent. Okay. How do I feel about pizza rolls? The official badger, pizza rolls are pretty good. There's some that are tasty. They're much better out of an oven than like microwaved, for example, which is, you know, pizza rolls. That's like, you know, funny one. Pizza pillows, there you go. They're like mini Hot Pockets, Crimson Green, mini Hot Pockets. Oh, donut burgers. Yeah, I love donut burgers. Very good. Good stuff, those donut burgers. Alright, and also chatters. So you'll notice on these ones, these have nothing to do with the number of things where I am just passing in the internal call, the number of times I'm doing that, that's what's showing me that this interface isn't as specific as it should be. That's how I know the interface segregation principle isn't applying right here. So, and then these, again, I need these to just pass through as well. So, I'm not even sure if I can get away with this. This I don't know if I can do. I can't. Event handler for those. I'm not sure if I can assign these to just be that one. Unless I make them gutters and centers on here. Hang on, I'm not sure if I can make this work. I have to think about this. Interesting programming challenge here. Hang on. Isn't a pizza roll called I Heart Coding? Yeah, you're probably not from the US then. Would be my guess. I Heart Coding. Pizza rolls. They're like little bite size. Like think like a postage stamp, like enclosed little pizza bite thing. That'll be a stream. Yeah, Zarno, I'm thinking the same thing. Hey, I am nobody too. Welcome. Can you set them in the internal chat client events in the constructor? Oh, I might be able to. That's a reasonable suggestion. If in the constructor I said on all those things, on chat command received equals underscore, but that's not gonna do anything because I need to plot, because it's an event, so I have to like add it to it. It's weird. Zizo, thanks. Glad you enjoyed the stream. Hope to see you back next time. Does C# only work on Windows? Oh, I am nobody. No. C# works on Windows, on Linux, on Mac, specifically in .NET Core. It works wherever you want to run it. So, yep. So yeah, .NET Core, Mono. So you could actually on Linux use C# well before .NET Core. But the new stuff, .NET Core, is much lighter. It's really awesome. Yeah, exactly, Zarno. That is actually a reasonable analogy. It's not quite perfect, but that is that's part of the reason why we can't do it this way. So yeah, could the events go in their own interface? Exactly, SNB. Now you've hit the problem that I was just pointing out, which is our interfaces don't quite work. We have an interface segregation issue here. So even these probably need to be on the same one as this. So let's do this. So this is a chat client. Oh, actually, I might pull these out. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say public interface iChat. So this is not a chat client. This is a chat messenger, sender, chat sender, chat. Nice. Well done, Official Badger. Yes, I turned it back on. Yeah, so I am nobody too. So there are actually a lot of other good sources for. There are a lot of good sources for learning C#, wherever you want to check it out. But yeah, I know Chatterer. I'm going to work on that name in a second. Think about names, you guys. You can suggest names for this. What SNB linked to there is actually our Learn to Code in C# event. So it is a beginner level, but it's a chance to follow along with us in C#, and you can learn it that way. iChatty. And there are a lot of other places to help learn C# as well. One of the suggestions I would make is no matter what you do, and if you are looking for those types of resources, I would recommend that you join our Discord, which I just linked to there in the chat. Or actually, I didn't. The bot did, technically. That's weird. If you check out our Discord, that's like a... I don't know if you are on our Discord, but... Ooh, chat messenger. I'm iMessage sender? I don't want to be like Messenger. I like iChatty. Nice. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do right now. Just to make things work simply, I am actually going to have this interface implement that interface. Wait, what is that? Oh, derp, 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 derp. I just put the comma there. Why did I put a comma? I have no idea. Derp. Okay, so at this point, what I have effectively done is nothing. So I've changed nothing about this code. It works exactly the same way it did before. Now I'm going to make a change. I'm going to take these, pull them out of here, and I'm going to put them up here. Now what have I done? Again, I have fundamentally changed nothing about how the code actually runs. So this code should work exactly the same way it did before. But now I can say buffered message sender is my new name here. So I've renamed this. I'm going to rename the file to match that. And then I can get rid of these. Whoops. I can get rid of the connect and the disconnect. I can get rid of timeout, ban, and all the events. And now I have a buffered message sender that takes in an iChat client. So that's neat. I once tried to connect a WebSocket to a socket thingy that said they could connect you, so there was a mistake. Okay, so that's actually pretty cool. So that's cleaner. So this one, when we're talking interface segregation principle, which we were discussing the solid principles, and we will cover them more in Solid Saturday, but that now works, and the rest of my code is none the wiser. It does not know what we just did. We just hid this change from them. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you like the code. Greatly appreciate it. Yes, the official badge is correct. Feel free to follow the channel, subscribe if you like. That is available for anybody that wants to. Oh, and I should mention, so I am drinking out of a can and a bottle right now, but I will soon be drinking out of a custom DevChatter mug. 5,000, the work done with the repositories and the commands is very cool. Oh, I'm glad you like the way that we did the repositories and the commands. If you took, I assume you were taking a look at our GitHub and taking a look at the code there. I like the way we structured our stuff too. The code in this, I will mention, the code in this repository is not perfect. I don't, like, there's a lot of things I want to fix, but I generally like the structure we did. So I think we've come up with some good stuff. So buffered message sender works pretty well. I like it. It does nothing. It just lets someone else do its work for it. So step one to make this thing do nothing is this. Send message. Message. Now, this is literally just a wrapper around the actual message sender. Right? So this is going to take the Twitch chat client. We have wrapped it. We have essentially hidden it inside of here, and we just use it as the internal chat client, and that's actually how it's going to work. This is called the Decorator Pattern. And the reason why is because I can now take that object, use it the same way I did before. Anything that used an iMessage sender can keep using an iMessage sender, and it knows nothing else about what's going on. And the reason it's called the Decorator is that essentially all we're doing is I'm attaching a buffer onto my Twitch chat client. So it's as if I've decorated it. And Monad RX, welcome, thanks for following. And I don't know if the official badger, he may have hit the follow button already, he or she. Other people may have also. And Woodcraft, thank you. And if I butcher anybody's name, just let me know, and I will attempt to pronounce your name better. Every once in a while I get people's name right the first try, but that is no guarantee. Okay, so here we go. Ooh, and we're hyping again. Thanks for that. Okay, so we now have buffered message here. And what I want to do is I want to take this, and I'm going to do something I don't want to do with it. Because I'm going to hop over to the Twitch chat client, find out where it was used, and it was set up... Twitch registration, extensions, nope, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so we're going to go to the startup method. So our web project startup method is nasty. I apologize about that. We need to clean it up. And we will get to that. It just hasn't been super high on our priority list. The official badger cheered. No problem, Badger. It's okay. I don't mind the hype. I don't mind. I would turn it off if I wanted to stop for a little while. I have that power. Although I do know I need to put a button on my Stream Deck. So I use a Stream Deck, which is actually how I do... Yeah, I know, Zarnal. I know. I need to... It's on the backlog. Hey, if you want to, if you're looking for some way to contribute to the project, one of the things that's on my backlog that I'm probably going to do off stream, not on stream, just because it's going to be like a like mess of figuring out everything that we need to get wired up. But I want to wire up an external IOC container. So we used to be running AutoFac in here, and I may also want to set, like, we might go back to AutoFac. We could use Ninject. I don't have a strong preference on an IOC container. There are a lot of them that I've used before. We just need to use one, and we want to put one in here, get some auto registration set up. I've discussed it with the people in our Discord, so if you do want to chat about that, that's the place to do it. And I made changes so the bot shut off. Dang it. That's what I get. Whenever you actually make a change that requires the bot to restart, it will restart, and thus it's not running again, so the bot got turned off. I'll have to turn it back on again in a minute. Okay, so... what were we doing? We need to do this. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Buffered message sender. So this is not an ideal thing here, but for now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tell it for this one, the automated message system is just going to use a buffered message sender. Now normally the way I would wire this up is a little bit differently, but in this case I know the automated message system always needs to have a buffered message sender, so I'm going to have it use this one. But realistically, it should just be taking an iMessage sender and figuring it out from there that it needs a buffered one. And we could turn on the buffer. But we're going to do this. So we always need a buffered one, and the buffered one always takes in an iChat client, or an iMessage sender, which the iChat client is one, and that is what we should get. Now I need to look at where this was registered. And Steel Zeal, welcome, thanks for following. Hey, Horkrine, how's it going? Oh, Official Badger, see you, take care. Horkrine, what's the challenge? iChat client, which chat client? Okay. Someone followed and I missed it. I apologize about that. WebD Egg, welcome. Thanks for following, and I apologize for butchering your name. Hi. Yes, I see you saying hi now too. Let's see. Got a challenge for you. Get AutoFac up and running in .NET Core 2.1 web app under a lifetime scope. I tried everything in the book. Oh, okay, Horcrux. So that's actually exactly what I was talking about. Was trying to get that running. So that is an interesting thing. My interview is in 2 hours. You have any tips? Yeah, Root Guy. Be relatively honest about stuff. That does not mean that you have to be upfront about everything. But it doesn't mean you like tell them stuff that might make you look bad. But what I would say is, for anybody that's going for any kind of an interview, be willing to say that you don't know things. I think it's actually a good thing. That does not mean that that's guaranteed to get you a job. I'm not exactly gonna give you a promise on that one, but I always like it when people admit what they do and don't know. Yeah, as Ancient Coder says, one of the big things when you are interviewing for a job is be confident. I know all of us suffer from imposter syndrome to some degree or another, but I don't know. I think you're probably pretty good. You hang out in here, so obviously are. I mean, all the people that hang out in here are pretty awesome. Okay, so Ancient Coder, you asked a great question. Why am I using singletons? And the answer is that some of these items that we create need to be persistent because they need to be constantly running because the bot has to be connected to the chat at all times. And so since its event has to be connected and we have to maintain that persistent connection, I created as a singleton because we need to be connected to that so that we can respond to the events when they happen. That doesn't mean that everything should be a singleton, but we have a handful of things that need to be because they need to always be there. Some of the other items we could be leveraging the service collection a little bit better to get a new one when we've got it. Okay. Let's jump back into this. So we've got that Twitch chat client. It's a chat client. I want to go to the buffered message sender. And instead of accepting... Ooh, actually, no, it accepted an iChat client to begin with. Oh, man, we're set. We're set. Okay. I think it will work. Maybe. Automated message, chat clients. OMG. We didn't even have the problem to begin with that I thought we did. Okay. So, these, instead of being that, need to be iBuffered message senders. I need to convert this. So the way that you can do this in C#, if you need to convert from one type of object to another, one of the easiest ways to do that is to just do a select. So I am going to say, I'm going to say buffered senders equals chatclients.select, and I'm going to say new buffered message sender taking in the chat client. And I'm going to guess Facu Rodriguez, and I'm probably going to pronounce that horribly, and I apologize about that if I did, but welcome, thanks for following. That should be iTalkative. Never trust code that works the first time. How do you plan that in Push? Okay. So that's that, and then this just needs to be a toList. So we're going to pass those in there, and I'm basically going to wrap it at that point. I'm not a big fan of this because I should be doing this somewhere else. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say, these need to come from somewhere else. These need to get wrapped elsewhere. Okay, so those need to get wrapped elsewhere. But it still should wrap correctly. Let's go ahead and try running the bot. We're gonna jet clients. Swap. Right. My bad. Doesn't make a big difference, but we're gonna put that in there. And then the tests are gonna fail, of course. That's an image of buffered message senders. There we go, done. It's empty, so it doesn't matter. Okay, now everything compiles. Let's go ahead and run the code. Let's see what happens. Cross your fingers, everybody. Cross your toes. Let's see what we get. Alrighty. Whoop, 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 whoop. Hello, the bot's here. Awesome. Bot is actually in. I really should have shortened one of those messages. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to view the data. What message do we want to remind everybody? Where's the follow one? Click follow. So from 7 minutes down to 1. So now that's going to be every 1 minute. So I apologize, that's going to get annoying real fast, but I will turn it off soon, don't worry. So let me go ahead and flip that. We're going to run this. Let's see what happens. Come on, bot. Come on. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Alright, so for anybody who doesn't know, hasn't been here forever, hasn't heard me yell and scream, right now what the bot is actually trying to do is it is calling an undocumented part of the Twitch API. Oh, if you are looking for Pluralsight courses to watch, I do recommend you watch all my Pluralsight courses. So go look for Brendan Enric on Pluralsight and watch my courses, because there's some good ones. There we go. Attending conferences, things like that, those are actually all really good. Arguably, this is the same thing. Okay, so bot just entered the chat. Yeah, Horkrine, I've been on Pluralsight for years. I think my first course was like 2012 or something like that. Yeah. See? That's me. Hi. Look. See? That's kind of the same guy. I actually only have 2 Pluralsight courses. They're these ones. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I didn't actually do that till then, but I was contracted to do it then. Yeah, okay, there you go. So, yep, fun stuff. I know, Horkrine. It's kind of funny, isn't it? Search came up with 2 courses. No, Green Dove, those are my only ones right now. That doesn't mean I won't do other stuff with them, but we'll see. Okay, so the bot says, enjoying the stream, click follow. Has it said it again yet? Let me see if it says it again. I want to see it say it again. Because it should say it again. If it can't say it again, then we've got other problems. So 153, it should say it again in about a minute. Like within a minute, it should trigger again. So we're watching the chat window right now, and we can talk about various things while we do that. If you're into the source, Sean Wildermuth are also some of my favorite picture Pearl site devs with good tutorials. Oh, yeah, Horkrine. I've known Sean Wildermuth for plenty of years. I don't think I know Mark, though. Oh, and there it is. Okay. Plutonin. I just went with a GUID because why not? The decision between a GUID and an int is pretty much one that comes down to, you know, personal preference. I like integers for a lot of things, and I like GUIDs for a lot of things. So, I went with a GUID. Doesn't make a huge difference, because I'm not worried about the structure. So, one of the problems with using a GUID as an ID inside of a database table is the idea that you have what's called a clustered index. So it's trying to keep things in order based on that ID. So when you put something in with a randomly generated ID, you can run into a problem. If you use a sequential ID, the issue goes away and you can use a GUID again. And that means it's going to use like a non-totally random way of getting you your GUIDs in order, so over time you get to new ones. There are so many GUIDs that you can basically go on forever and you don't have to worry about it. With an integer, though, you just, you know, add the next one, go in order, and that's fine too. So it's up to people what they want to do. Oh man, Afrohack, that is a bummer. Make sure you hit the alerts so you actually will get notified of these. If you are here in the chat, oh, I can't do it on this one. Hang on. Example, if you click on this, you can turn on notifications to get notified when I go live. So if you are followed, you don't necessarily get a notification. You can turn that on or off, but you can actually tell it to actually notify you and you won't miss a stream. And yeah, that is another one of our subscribers. We have a lot of awesome subs here, plenty of people in eggs. Okay, so the bot is... Yeah, Horkrine, it should be on by default, but some people might have turned it off. Okay, so the cool thing is that our messages are sending. So that means that the buffer little wrapper that we built didn't break anything. So that means this did not cause any problems. So here's what we can do. And Plutonin, thank you very much for the Twitch Prime subscription. Greatly appreciated. Please make sure to enjoy your DevChatter hype emote that you now get, and your sub badge of a wait, Ancient Code. What do you mean? Oops, pressed the wrong button. Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about, Ancient Coder. But Plutonin, thank you very much for the wait, no, oh, nice music. Yeah, I do love the music. Oh, Ancient Coder, did you accidentally unfollow or something? Yeah, no, that's cool. Happens. For people trying to spam the hype thing, give me 1 second. There you go. Hype works again. Although the cooldown's still going to be there. Yeah, that's not a problem. So we actually have a whole bunch of followers here, so I really, really appreciate the support that we've gotten here from the community. As many of you guys know, I'm trying to build a whole community of developers, not just... so I love the Twitch stream, but I'm trying to build a whole community of developers that are working together. So if, you know, any men or women out there want to join our Discord and chat with us about different coding stuff, that is one part of our community that I am trying to grow. We have a bunch of people in there that are chatting, and I have a feeling that if you enter that room, someone will say hello to you when you get there even. Nope, not automated. An actual real-life person that is a software developer will probably say hi right when you join. So if you want to be able to chat without actually having to have face-to-face with other humans, because that's weird, because, you know, we're programmers, we don't have face-to-face discussions all that often, that is a way to do it. Okay, so I want this to have a buffer. So how can I do that? I can say date, time. I'm going to say private, date, time, last message, sent. We will start this with date time UTC now when it is created. I'm going to allow that to give it an underscore. Time last sent. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. Whoops. I'm going to typo. That's what I'm going to do. I am going to say, if time last sent, can I async this? Maybe. Time last sent is, how do I want to do that? So that was the time last sent. I gotta think about this. And that bot's getting mildly annoying because it just keeps saying, enjoying the stream, click follow. Because we adjusted the time down to make sure we could actually see it happening. Oh, and we're playing Hangman now. And yes, our Hangman game plays out above my head. Hey, there you go. Good job, Crimson Green. Congratulations. Yeah, World Wake. The Hangman game's a little weird. And it is just a little sketch that we've got up there. Not the best of things. Anyway, so here's what I'm gonna do. Time last sent equals date time UTC now. So we're gonna set that value there. Now I gotta think about how we want this buffer to work. I almost want to, like, when we do this, spin up a thread that's gonna wait a minute and watch for the buffer to empty out. So here's what I'm thinking. List a string. And I'm gonna call this queued messages. If time last sent dot add minutes is greater than date time dot UTC now. So essentially we're saying if it hasn't been a minute since our last message was sent, we are going to queue up the message. So queue the message. We're going to send the message in. And then this is part of the else. Send the message. So we either queue the message or we send the message is basically the decision we make. What is this? Oh, yeah, the Hangman is a little sketchy. We're probably going to do something else with that. Like, so that's actually using, that's that emote is actually what we've got up there right now, so that's actually just a Twitch emote. We'll probably mess with that one. Change it up a little bit. Anyway, so cue the message, send the message. So when we cue the message, I want to take our queue here, which I know I just called it I just made it a list for now, but we can obviously change that at any point to be another structure that's a little better. And then what I want to do when we queue the message, I want to make sure that we spin up a thread to come back for this one. So I want to say, ooh, how do we do this? Do we task.run this? I think we might do this. So we need to somehow get this to go ahead and do a task while we're done. So I want to queue up the message, and then I want to trigger a thing that's going to come back in a minute. What's the time span? So I want to say time span from minutes 1. Actually, I just had a thought. Maybe I don't need to queue it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Zarnal. And then as each one comes back, they'll check to see whether or not they're ready to go. So instead of doing that, so don't create a queue at all. Just have some spun up tasks ready to do the message again. And it would do another one even if it was, so oh man. Wait a minute and attempt to run it again. Spin up a task, run that, call this one, call back into that, which actually, just to avoid confusion, I'm going to remove that method and we'll just leave it like this. So we won't have a send the message. And then if it needs to get queued again, it will. So then each one should always then just wait a minute and try to go again. I can't guarantee order of these queued messages then, which I may not care much about. I may not care about that. So I think I'm going to do from seconds 30 instead of... Well, actually, if I delay by a minute every time... Yeah, we'll check again in 30 seconds. Simzek. Since the rest of your name looks difficult to pronounce. Hi, welcome. They'd have been sent nearly on the same millisecond to get order confused, though. Yeah, if we're doing minute. Yeah, if we do a minute, then yeah, it's unlikely that they're gonna end up out of order. Yeah, see, Turkish name. I wasn't gonna be able to. I wasn't. We get so many people from different languages here that like even when I see a name, I'm like, oh, that could be this or this. I'm not sure what country that's from. Especially when I see a J, I'm like, okay, is that gonna be pronounced like a Y, or like an English J? You know, it's like, oh, Jan, is that Jan or Jan? You know, or Yan? You know, it's like I don't know. I don't have any idea what it is. I just have to kind of guess. Yeah, exactly. So I just take guesses on names. But welcome. And is Simzak work? Is that a name that I could use? Is that close enough? If you're good with that, like if not, make a suggestion for what I say, so I can call you something. Because I like to be able to talk to people in chat with a name that they're good with. Yeah, yeah, I usually just say Horkrine. Oh, and thank you for the follow as well. Yeah, Hork is pretty easy. But at least for a native English speaker it is. You think DevChatter bot wants you to follow? Maybe it does. And yeah, sorry about that, everybody. I have it set to like say that every minute or two or something like that. We'll turn that off once we get this testing done. Okay, so I think this might work, maybe? Wow, that was good. Nice. Clever. Alright, here's what we're gonna do. Just to make things work out well. So we did 7, 11, 13. Alright, everybody, I apologize. The bot is gonna get really chatty here for a second. Yeah, sorry about that, Horkrine. Yeah, it doesn't work. Oh, come on. Okay, so I've mentioned this like 100 times here on the stream. When the bot starts up, it calls an undocumented API and an undocumented portion of the Twitch API. That fails sometimes. Even though we have it set to retry a whole bunch, it retries repeatedly for, you know, for like 5-10 seconds or something like that, and then it will eventually fail. And I start it again, and then it maybe succeeds. Who knows? But either way, the bot's back in here. So now, we wait a few minutes, and we should have it attempt to do some messages one right after another, and we should start buffering. We should get a serious buffer going, because I've got too many messages going out in too short a period of time, because I have those set at 1, 2, and 3 minutes. So at 1 minute it's going to be fine, but at 2 minutes we're going to have 2 messages try to go. At 3 minutes we're going to have 3 messages try to go. At 4, 5, 6 we're going to have messages queuing up, trying to send, and stepping on each other's toes. We're going to get a nasty backlog, and it's going to get weird. But this is too frequent for it to actually be that. But I just want to check and see, is the buffering going to work? Okay, so there's our 2-minute message. But so that's our 1 minute message. In another minute we should see the next one try to go. Yeah, Zarnal. So yeah, it's just it fails to start. So is everybody enjoying the stream today? We wrote some interesting code, some stuff in C#. This Saturday, as a reminder, we're going to be talking about the single responsibility principle as part of the solid principles. Might have fun TV. We are targeting .NET Standard in our class libraries, but the actual project itself is targeting .NET Core, so that's actually what we've got in here. Might have fun TV, so it's actually it's pretty good stuff. I like the way that they set that up. Okay, there at 20. So that is the Got Questions one, and we didn't get the other message, so it should now be queued and trying to go the next time. but it actually might get delayed further because the other message might jump in first. So that would be really cool if it does that. Glad to hear it, Ancient Coder and Rodriguez and S&B. Glad everybody's enjoying the stream. Still can't get AutoFac and .NET Core 2.1 running. Horkrind, I will have to try the same thing probably here soon. Well, good luck with that, Horkrind. I hope you do get that working pretty soon. If you do, feel free to offer back some suggestions for the rest of us and how we do that, because we will probably want to get AutoFac running in our project as well. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the stream today. Don't worry, we're not ending right now, everybody. We're just watching to see how it does things. Okay, cool. So the enjoying the stream one came up before the 3-minute one. So we're now waiting for having fun chatting with other developers should be in the queue. So what I like is we're not getting repeats. There's no doubled up messages. So if you're watching the chat, we're watching what the chat bot does. We're just trying to see like how it comes in, what messages it sends. Tra-la-la. Oh, I dropped a couple of frames there. That's weird. Oh, no. So, Might Have Fun TV, that is actually a remnant of something else. That was a mistake. Ignore that. The last cent should be getting updated. But what's weird about it is we don't quite set that right. Wow, Horkrine, you know, according to OBS here, I have dropped 21 frames so far this stream. So that's it. Not all that many. Shouldn't... Oh, Horkrine, enjoy your food. Okay, so I'm probably not dropping frames on my end. If I am getting some kind of lag, it's probably on Twitch's end. At least what it's telling me on this end is good. Let me check my dashboard really quickly and check what, not that one, this one. Because I have it up on my end so Twitch can tell me what it's receiving from me. Yeah, I got a steady line. So... I'm not sure. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so if we're getting a little bit of buffering, that's probably not on Okay, well, that's not the worst. It says I've dropped 37 frames so far, so I don't know. I apparently dropped a few right here, so not bad either way. Watching what the bot is saying there, it says having fun chatting with other developers. Join the Discord, enjoying the stream. Click follow. Enjoying the stream. Click follow. So it said that one twice. It's got questions. Feel free to ask. But I'm seeing good buffering between these, so it's not sending out the messages too much. So it looks like our buffer is working. So I actually like that. And then there's the next message, again, a minute later. So it looks like our buffer is working nicely. So I'm going to jump these times back up so you guys don't get annoyed by them. Oh, because the data's been modified since it was, okay. 7, 11, 13. There we go. So now, let's stop the bot. Stop the bot! We're going to start it again. And see what happens. Oh man, there's nothing nicer. So, there's nothing nicer than you write a little bit of code and you see it work. I love seeing code work. It's awesome. Whether it's my code or somebody else's code, it is always fun to check in on something and be like, hey, wow, cool, that actually worked. That's amazing. So, big fan of that. Okay, there we go. Bot is back in the chat. Times are back to normal, I hope. Refresh. Yep, times are back to normal. So we have valid delays back on there. And the cool part is that now if we get two messages try to go at the same time, it's going to buffer them out. All right, so that was one piece. Remember I mentioned that there were two more tasks we needed. We just completed one of them. There's one more task and then we will be in good shape. We will have everything we wanted for our automated messages. Here's the change. Our initial creation of the automated message, we set the next runtime, and we set it equal to this. So, our initial next runtime should be not based on this value, but should come from, not from the clock, but from our, where is it? Interval message dot last sent dot add minutes that. So right off the bat, it's going to send out my initial messages all right one after another. So it's going to trigger a whole bunch of that stuff. Ancient Coder, I'm glad you love the logo, color, and theme and everything. I'm actually a big fan of all the stuff that we've actually got here. There's a lot of neat stuff. I like the DevChatter logo. I think it's clean and nice. Gets a nice point across. And I like our dinosaur mascot as well. So for anybody who doesn't know, we have a very cool dinosaur mascot, and you can see what he looks like either by using our emotes or by checking out things like our merch store here, where we have these awesome I'm coding stickers and things like that we set up. So really cool stuff. I'm a big fan of it, Ancient Coder. So I just recently added one of those I'm coding stickers to my laptop, actually. So, and if you're local to me, head to one of the user groups that I attend, because I was actually at my user group, Hudson SC, last night, and handed out DevChatter stickers there. So, it was pretty cool. I think this will just work now. Yeah, see, that's the problem, Ancient Coder. I'm not in the UK, so I can't easily get you stickers. That is part of why I set up the merch store thing, was I wanted to be able to let people that aren't near me actually get things like DevChatter stickers, because I'm like, oh, I'm getting stickers made. Let's actually let other people get them if they want. So don't limit just to me. Try that again. There it goes. Okay, cool. So the bot is in here, and now the messaging system should work. So when we start up now, it's actually going to send out our whole set of messages, each 1 minute right after another, but then it should start buffering them out at those correct distances. So the second sending of the message should be further out. But since I obviously have not delayed an hour or so, we aren't further back from that. Whew, you guys are right. I dropped a few more frames there. Sorry about that. And Big Bad Jock, welcome. Thanks for following. Okay, so I like the way that works. So I am going to commit this. But I want you to give me a second. Oh, awesome. We get a lot of people from the UK here. I think it comes from my timing of my stream. My stream is at a very good time for a lot of people in Europe, and also a good time for people in the United States. Almost like I planned that. Because our streams are usually around this time. They normally start about 20 minutes before, like, now. So that's our Mondays and Tuesday streams actually start at about 2 p.m. my time. Do I need to do that still? Yes, I do. Okay. Oh, awesome. Yeah, see, there you go. So I said U.S. and Europe, but really what I mean is like, you know, the Americas and, you know, essentially we're pretty good time, say like from like -7 UTC up to like +3 or 4 UTC. If you're in any of those time zones, we're set pretty well for you guys. So, oh no! Oh, look at that! It put out 2. Got answers and have Amazon Prime just triggered at the same time. No. All right, so apparently we got to figure that one out. But I have a feeling the buffering will work most times. I think they must have just been too close together or something. Yeah, so most of the people in the Americas I'm on in the background while they're working on other stuff. Most of the people over in Europe, Africa, Asia are usually catching me in the evenings. With the exception being, we have a regular that is in South Korea, and it's like, you know, 2 a.m. or something crazy like that when my stream happens. If you do want to know what our schedule is here, we have a schedule command, which if you run it without any parameters will give you the time in UTC. However, you, for example, could put in what your UTC offset is, but if you don't know your UTC offset, you can actually just put in a place. So you could say a state in the United States. You could say a country. So, like, like Iceland or England, for example. So, and it will come back with our schedule. So if you do want to find out what our schedule is, you want to know, you want to catch our streams, that is one of the best ways to do it, is to use our schedule command. You can also look down below if you're here on Twitch and take a look at that. If you want to see how we built that schedule command, those actually are in our archives of our YouTube section. I believe on YouTube you can actually just search our channel for our schedule command, and you'll find a series of videos that's all about that. And Crimson Green, you're absolutely wrong about Go Reds, because Cleveland just finished sweeping Cincinnati under the rug. That's right, it was a sweep. All right. And in case you didn't guess, Crimson Green and I do not root for the same sports teams. And my team just, you know, crushed his team. Sorry, Crimson. Okay, so that piece works. Let's go ahead and get this committed while we're thinking about it. So this is adding buffering and restart proofing interval messages. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna regret that, but I'm gonna do it. Alright, so one of the nice things, I use the GitHub desktop chat client. One of the things I actually like, I use it here for the stream mainly. I'm actually a command line guy, but I think it works great for the stream. And so if you are looking for a simple way to handle Git stuff, this is actually a clean, nice way to do it. One of the things I like is their updates. They just say, hey, there's an update, you know, restart GitHub desktop to get the update, and then like, boom, you're updated. And you're like, wow, you did that all behind the scenes, didn't you? And it's like, yep, it did it behind the scenes, so all you needed was a restart to try the new version. So very clean update experience. I like it. Okay, so let's get rid of that stuff. There we go. And so what did we... Wow, yeah. I got to talk about our data access twice today. I am actually thrilled by that. I don't think I've gotten to talk about our data access multiple times before. I'm thrilled by that. That was good. Okay, so we made that change to how our interval messages work. Nope. Oh, I must have just restarted the bot. That's weird. There we go. Okay. So since we are doing this, we've got a bunch of people here. Let's go mess with some JavaScript. So let's make a couple of changes. We'll look at how this is actually set up. So not that you guys can see where I'm going inside of this because I covered it up with hype emotes, but I'm over here in my www root folder inside the JS folder in here. So this is the root of the website. This is where I put static content files. That's what's inside this folder. And if I come down here, I can go to our overlay, and you'll see that I have this do hype method, which is actually what gets called when you do our hype command in the chat. So the way that works is that hype command triggers our hype command over on the C# side right here, and then that actually triggers a SignalR message to be sent to the browser, and there's actually a browser window above the screen here. So everything up here, that is all covered by a transparent browser window. And the SignalR is, if you don't know what SignalR is, that is a persistent communication tool between a client and server. So it's from Microsoft, and it uses WebSockets if they're available. And so essentially what happens is that browser window that's covering up the screen here is connected to our web server. And what it does is it allows them to have persistent back and forth communication. So I could send messages from the JavaScript, or I could receive them from the C#. In this case, we're receiving a message from C# saying to run the hype command. So when that happens, it runs this part here. And I am missing a semicolon there, aren't I? Yes, I am. Whoops. Fixed. Okay, so what we end up doing when we get this is I'm triggering out, and I just wanted to make a whole bunch, so I was just like, oh, I'll just do like a nested for loop so that I can have multiple blasts and essentially just delay by a little bit so they come out in bunches. So we'll have 20 blasts of not as many sprites as we had before, so maybe we'll do 10. So I'm going to update that. So now when I refresh this page that we're looking at here, so the one that's over the screen, remember there's an overlay over this screen that is a web browser. When I do that, I should now be able to say hype again, and it makes a whole bunch of hypes, but it's a lot fewer now. So that's still enough for hyping, I think, but that's a lot fewer hypes than we had moments ago. So that actually seems much more manageable, and I think that's probably better. So let's go with that. So cool, and excellent. Welcome. Thanks for following. So I think that's pretty cool. Reasonably good. So someone had commented about that during the stream. Toned down the hype emote, the hype command. So there we go. Tweaked. And then what else do we need to do in here? I also realized that this should say, it should attempt to use our hype emote if we have it. Hype, hype, DevChatter hype. It doesn't always have it. In chat response to hype. Okay, so our chat bot is actually talking there in chat. So you'll see DevChatter bot is our chat bot. And what it does is if it actually does have a subscription to the channel, it can use our chat emote. So that means our little hype emote, that one there that you can see in the chat. As long as the bot is a subscriber, which it sometimes is, it can use it. So like that command, it'll respond back and it can use the emote. If it loses its subscription, it can no longer do that. The actual reason that it has that is because generous viewers of our stream have occasionally donated subscriptions to it. So, for example, I believe Crimson Green donated the current one that it's running on. EF Cache Layer. Do I have Oh, yeah. No. Yes, we do absolutely have this. Yeah, so this is a slightly off-topic question, but I would love to talk about it. And that's true, Zarnal. You don't need nitro for it. Yeah, awesome. And thank you for that, Crimson Green. Much appreciated for the support of the bot as well. They can always use all emotes for the channels they are in. Yes, exactly. So when you're in a channel, you can just use emotes for that channel. So it's nice. Okay, so here is the cool thing. So Rodriguez, to answer your question, our caching layer here, this is not using, say, like an ASP.NET web, cache framework kind of thing, which, by the way, we could use. What this is we wanted to have a long-term storage technique of being able to do this, but treat it kind of like a cache. So it's not done, but it was done long enough for me to not worry about fixing it. But essentially what it does is when we use this, which actually I can show you, we have cache layer there. Nope. Hang on. I'm going to go to the cache layer. It wasn't ideal the way that we used it. Cache time zone lookup. Okay. So when we attempt to look up a time zone in order to show the schedule to you in our schedule command, so for example, if I do this, what's a good choice? So we're going to do, there's our schedule in Texas. So on Texas, we're Mondays at 1, Tuesdays at 1, Thursdays at 11, and Saturdays at noon. So that is our schedule as far as Texans are concerned. What it does here is it first checks to see, it does a, it attempts to get from the cache layer the time zone. So it goes to look up to see, do I already have a time zone for Texas? And if it does, it's going to use that. If it does not have one, then it is going to use the fallback. In this case, the fallback is this method right here. And that basically says, hey, if you don't find an entry for Texas in the cache, which again is a database table, that's why it's an EF cache layer, is because it is an entity framework cache layer talking to a database. It's going to call out to Google and get it instead. So that's all it's doing. It's quite nice, it's simple, and it's effective. The thing that we need to fix about it is that right now, and you may have noticed this, inside that EF cache layer, glad you got it. I'm going to finish explaining this just in case anybody else doesn't, is that we're not yet invalidating those items. So what we need to do is we need to set it up so that at some time frame we get rid of those, because that will not account for daylight savings times switches. So when states, countries, cities, wherever switch from one time zone to another as part of daylight savings time, we will choose the wrong time zone for them. So my current plan, since I haven't written that validation code, is when we get close to time zone shifting times, I'm just going to nuke all our data or turn the caching off. One of those two, I haven't decided which. Or my other option is I have a deadline of when countries start switching between daylight savings time again, which is coming up fast. I need to make sure that the cache invalidation's in place to remove those items when they need to get removed. So that's actually the idea, is I need to start checking those. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's a fantastic question, asking how that works. So speaking of which, I do want to mention to everybody, because I'm pretty sure this is what you're actually doing, is you are over on GitHub, would be my guess. And all the code we do here on stream is actually over on GitHub, so you can go look through our chatbot's code. You could contribute to it if you want. So in our past few streams, we've actually merged in some of the code that some of our viewers have sent us. So if you want to help us fix up some of the issues that we've got, you want to add new features, you want to make suggestions to the bot, you are able to right here, because it is open source on GitHub. And if you haven't before contributed to an open source project, that's totally okay. you are welcome to assist us with this. We will help you in doing your first pull request if you want. And if you don't know what that means, a pull request is just essentially it's like a code submission, and you're requesting that we pull it into our code, is the idea. So if you are interested in that, I recommend you join our Discord. It's full of a bunch of developers that are all interested in the same kind of stuff that we are. Programming, C#, JavaScript, various different languages, and just general tech stuff. So if you want to chat with other people that are interested in development, you know, a la DevChatter, then feel free to check out our Discord, because that is a great place to do it. Okay, so a couple of things I want to mention. If you haven't yet, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Brendonius. I'm actually at a lot of places as at Brendonius, so you'll find me all over the place. Heck, I'm even at Brendonius on Twitch, as you'll see, because I actually have more than one Twitch account, because Brendonius is the one I usually use for gaming on Twitch, but I use DevChatter here for my stream about development, so hence the name change. Obviously, my name is Brendan. And yes, yeah, that's right, Crimson. I have to sub to myself on Twitch, which is really annoying because I lose money on that deal. But that's so that I have my own Twitch emote, because I want to actually be able to get the same Twitch emote. So I need my DevChatter hype emote. So I love that little emote. So literally, I sub to myself so that I can do this when I go to other channels as Brendonius. That's seriously why I'm subbed to myself. It's because I want to do that. Okay, so I mentioned you can follow DevChatter on Twitter. It's, at DevChatter, but I had to have an underscore on the end. So I own the DevChatter domain, but someone got to me got to DevChatter, the Twitter alias, before I did. If you want to check out our videos here on DevChatter, everything we do here on stream actually gets recorded and ends up right up here. So you can actually find all of our recorded videos from all of our streams for going back to a certain point are here in the videos section. Right at the top is the Learn to Code series, which is our special series that we do for beginners. And if you're interested in that, details can be found at that link. But then all of our other videos are right down here, just below that one. You'll notice there's a video for today already. So no one's watched this one yet, but today's video is already there. You could have started watching it right now. You could already be watching it. No one is, because it's still at 0 views, but that is there if you want to take a look at that. And these videos only go back to May 12th. So Twitch does not keep all of our videos here. So if you want to see anything more than that, the way you do that is you check out our YouTube channel, which you can find right there at that link. Horkrine, yes, we will be covering Solid on Saturday. So if you head on over to our YouTube channel, you can find the archive of all of our videos that are older than that. So if you head over here and check out our uploads, the most recent one was episode 72, because I have these videos I've got at a bit of a delay, because I want the main source for people to watch the videos to be at Twitch. But you can check out these as well, and they are catching up. So lots of videos in all these places if you want to check out more DevChatter stuff. Let's see, I mentioned that. If you are looking for ways to support the channel, there are a whole bunch of ways you can do it. The easy ones are show up, watch, follow, chat. Doing any of those things is a huge help. So if you are here and watching, thank you already. You're already supporting the channel. If you want to help out more, the ways you could do that are you could retweet, you could post about it, you could tell people about DevChatter to help to grow our community. Other ways you could do it, you could become a subscriber here on the channel. So we have a bunch of people that subscribe to the channel, and they all then have the DevChatter hype emote, which in addition to that, anywhere they go on Twitch, they can spam the DevChatter hype emote and get people excited about that. We also now have a merch store. And at the request of a bunch of people, I did set up a Patreon. However, I'm probably going to modify some of these things because there's specific stuff people want me to put on there in terms of rewards on our Patreon. But I did set up a Patreon for people who want to support the channel. And yes, But one of the biggest things is click the follow button and show up and watch the videos with us. So be here live, participate. We absolutely love that. That is the best thing that you can do. So if you don't want to do any of the other stuff, just show up, watch, have fun, enjoy, contribute to the projects, chat, up to you. And I do recommend people join Discord. So with that being said, I want to mention that our next stream is going to be our Solid Saturday episode number 1. So single responsibility principle of the solid principles of object-oriented design. So we are going to be discussing that on Saturday. And that is going to be Saturday, August 18th, 2018. Learn to program in C# playlist has two. NVNbot, if you mean on YouTube, then the reason is just that they are scheduled and not live yet. If that's what you mean, NVNbot. If it's the YouTube list. Is it the YouTube list? Playlists. I think that's what you mean. Well, sorry. Oh, I can probably see them because it's me, but yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, so if there's a private video in a playlist, all that means, NVNbot, is that the video is scheduled to go live. Yeah, so the video is scheduled to go live, and it will be going, so I send out one video a day is basically the idea, so yep, they'll be there soon. So don't worry about that, I just want them to be coming out periodically so I don't, like, overwhelm everybody with a whole bunch of videos. So, yep, they'll be there. Have Amazon Prime, you can use it. Oh yeah, that's right. And one thing I should mention, if you did want to subscribe to the channel and you have Amazon Prime, you actually get a free Twitch Prime subscription every month. Okay, any questions from people? Because I'm willing to do a little bit of Q&A before we wrap up here if people want to ask questions about C#, other things like that. .NET Core, .NET, anything. So, and by anything, I mean a very limited anything to things that, I mean, I guess my answer could always be I don't know, or I don't want to talk about that one. But you're welcome to ask the question. All right, cool. I will take that as nobody has any questions on there, and we will go ahead and start wrapping up. Don't leave yet. Don't leave. Don't leave. Still one more thing going on there. Oh, and there's a question. See, that's another reason not to leave. I was going to check and see if there was someone to host, but hey, we got a question. On the data access interface, you had a method getById. Yes, I do. Data item policy of type T, getById, right here. How would you handle it if there were multiple ID types? Oh, well, that's actually an easy one. I would do something like this, and then that would work fine. The trick is this, though. Remember that the items that we're actually filtering on are all of type data entity. So because this has a GUID as the value, I can't run into that. So what I would do if I ended up with that is I would either get rid of this restriction on T and not put it here, or I would make, so this is a data, I called it a data item policy, it should really be a data entity policy, but I would make a different base policy for those ones of that type to get it the correct ID for what those ones are, if that makes sense, Sprock. So let me know if that doesn't answer your question or if you've got a follow-up on that. And Guy Ross, when do you use read-only versus a property? Oh, that's so those would be two different things, Guy Ross, but I will absolutely explain it. I could use, so when do I use a read-only field versus a property? But really it's a question of when do I use a property versus a field? And the short answer is, if it is private and I'm only using it in here, I'm not going to bother making it a property most of the time because I'm already making changes inside that class. One of the reasons to use a property is that you can hide some things away. So an example of that, is actually in the code that we were looking at today. So today on stream, we were looking at, what were we looking at? We were looking at the automated messages. For example, this message property right here. This could have been a field that I was setting, but instead of setting a field to a value, this is not a field. This is actually a property, and I will show you what it really looks like. So this is the actual code that's like really what's running here. I just hide it away in that expression-bodied member. It's actually a message with a return of that value. So the idea is I didn't really have the value stored a second time here. This is just an accessor to get another one. So a lot of times this is what I do to hide this away. This is the point of properties inside of an object-oriented language, is that you can hide the value and how it's actually accessed. So anybody else is just say, hey, I need your message property. I don't care whether you stored that as a backing thing or whether you get it off some other object. I don't mind. Like, maybe you need to log that I accessed it. I don't care that you need to do extra work. Just give me the value. And so that's sort of the way that properties work. So let me put that back. But that's actually all that's doing. So it's kind of neat. Awesome, Sprock. Glad I could answer your question there. Guy Ross, let me know if that makes sense. Regarding read-only versus not read-only, the idea is if you only set the value one time in the constructor, then it can be read-only, so you might as well make it read-only. In terms of like the actual benefit from doing that, read-only things can be handled differently by the compiler, the runtime, etc., because they know about the fact that it's not going to get changed. So that allows things to be optimized for you. So I will put the read-only, and this will then prevent it from getting changed. So since this is a constructor dependency, I know that I got this at the constructor, I set the value, I know it's not changing, and so that works nicely. So if that makes sense, it's basically whenever I can add read-only, I will, to a private field. Guy Ross, let me know if that makes sense, and if that fully answers that question. Ancient Coder, what is my technique for picking up a new language or tech? So what I usually like to do for new languages, I will go and I will do katas for them. So a kata I've done before, I will try doing it in that new language. That sometimes makes me have to start Googling things to look up, oh, hey, what's the syntax for this? What's the syntax for that? And then I apply them. So I don't recommend just reading about the new syntax. You really want to try it. So I like doing katas and programming exercises because it gets me the chance to, start using some of this syntax and getting used to it. Another way to do it would be, so on Tuesday I did the Code Wars stuff. So I was doing programming exercises on codewars.com. And if you went there and just did some exercises on the language, even though it's like not always the best thing, it gives you the chance to try it. And really you want the repetition to learn the syntax to get it into your head. Regarding a new tech, not just a language, what I will do sometimes to learn a new tool or technology or something like that is I will try to come up with a project that I can either just start adding it into and just fiddle until it works, or if I don't have one where I can immediately do that or don't feel comfortable because maybe it's a production, app that I don't want to be messing around with, which obviously I'm going to be doing the dev one, but you know what I mean. I will start a new project. I'll be like, what's a simple thing I could do with this? So, and it depends on what the tech is, but I'll just try and come up with what's a sample project. So, the classic one for SignalR, a lot of people did essentially a chat application. So think like a messaging client. So think like Slack in a browser. That there was a thing called Jabber that was written by the Microsoft team that built SignalR, and they tested, that was their test bed. So a lot of people also built those types of applications where they could just do this like chat. So two people could just log onto the same website and be talking in a chat window that they were both getting updates from. So like that's what I mean when I say like just create a sample. Like come up with a fairly simple exercise that you could just do and create that. So recommendations for learning about software architecture. I don't have a lot of great recommendations for that one. Usually, so I do workshops on software architecture and building clean architecture and things like that, Rodriguez, and I know some other people that do as well, like Ardalis is another developer that does a lot of software architecture talks. One of the big recommendations that I give to people is attend an event where they do a workshop on it. So I've done workshops on building clean architecture before in software, and that's one of the good approaches. There are plenty of books on clean architecture, there are articles, but one of the big things I recommend is work with someone that knows how to do it, and either go through a workshop with them or bring them on as a mentor to help your team move towards some of these newer architectures. So that's usually my recommendation. And yeah, so I'm glad you like the architecture on here. We are fairly close to a clean architecture, but not quite there, because it is actually really hard to get to the ideal scenarios that I'm talking about. And that's why I recommend going through one of these workshops, is then you can build and see how they're supposed to function, and you can slowly move your code to it. So the idea is every time we add something, if we either don't have the time or things like that to get it to where it's supposed to be, a lot of times what you can do is you'll add in something that's like, this doesn't match the architecture we want, it's not great, but I have a deadline, so I'm gonna do this. We all run into that. It's okay. Like, don't beat yourself up over it. We all do it. The key is having the discipline to come back and fix it later. Now, that's not always possible in a working environment, because sometimes if you have a working environment where your boss is a micromanager and is not going to let you go back and clean up the technical debt you incurred in order to do that, then yeah, you get kind of stuck sometimes. But if you've got a team and you've got an organization that really are into that, you can make good progress on improving architecture inside of a project. So there's a lot of good stuff with that. Janiscu, SignalR was mentioned in an Azure Functions live stream. That actually could be really cool if you were connecting an Azure function to something else using SignalR. I have not actually seen an example where someone was doing that, Janiscu. And oh, they're gonna have some big breaking changes. Well, that's not all that surprising. Control-Shift-L. What does Control-Shift-L even do? What is that one? Oh, deletes a line. Okay, that's cool. Oh, Ancient Coder, thank you very much. I'm glad people enjoyed the stream. As I said, I think most of you have hit the follow button already, but if you liked the stream at all, make sure you click the follow button so you can catch the next one. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. As I said, I was planning on wrapping up before we completed hour number 3. So we have been live for uptime 2 hours, 55 minutes, and 56 seconds. So as Janiscu says, hit that follow button to get notified when we go live next. I really love chatting with all of you. It's a fantastic community. And remember, our next stream is on Saturday. So that'll be, what, less than 48 hours from now. It'll be, what, 46 hours from now? So set your clocks, and I will see you then. Very interesting. We'll have to look through the code and YouTube videos. Thanks. Big Bag Jock, awesome. Thanks. Let me know what you think, and hopefully we'll see you at the next one. And Smartasky, yes. You know what? I'm going to shout out Smartasky, because he's here. Smartasky is actually he's a programmer, obviously, I mean being here, but he's also a gaming streamer, and so is Crimson Green. So both of those are gaming streamers. If you're interested in that, feel free to follow either of those guys as well. And yes, I will see you on Saturday, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, night. You know, take care, everybody. Happy coding, and we will return. So, bye, everybody. And thanks for following.